To episode 262 of This Week in Real Estate, the T-Wire podcast, broadcast live Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. Will the Fed cut rates and the economy boom? This episode was brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you. If you're watching the show, send this to someone else who's kind of similar to you, maybe someone else in the industry, someone that you think could use some information about exactly what's happening in the housing market and real estate industry. They could be industry professional, title, lender. That's where most of our listeners come from, or industry professionals, realtors like you. But we also have some investors and consumers that love the show for the macro outlook on the economy. So if you are viewing us on YouTube, you could comment and I can display your comment and I can talk about you, or I could just talk about your comment, just like Matt LaMarche did. He's already there. He says, can't wait. Like and subscribe, everybody. Thanks, Matt. You could also comment, and I could display that comment if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn. And if you're on Clubhouse, you could join us and actually add your voice to the show. And today is a very special show. I'm going to start doing this about once a month, where I actually invite listeners of the show to the show. So you're going to get to see some of the people that you have only heard their voice or have only read their comments in the past. They're actually joining us live today. So we do that. The reason why we do this whole show is to have one place where you could go for succinct professional analysis of exactly what's happening in the industry from those of us who are still out there selling houses. So we're just not pundits pontificating aimlessly. This actually makes a difference in our business. And so that's why we have this show. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Mr. Mike Velez. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, Ray? Hang on.
Mike was the most accurate on the prediction special that we did at the end of the year. A year ago, Mike predicted rates almost with pinpoint accuracy. He predicted not only the rate at the end of the year, but what would happen through the year. So I'm excited to have this oracle on with us.
I'm happy to be here too.
Your Instagram, what's your Instagram handle? Tell everybody so they can follow you.
Bold agent. Just
bold agent.
Yeah.
That's a good Instagram handle. I mean, you got that early.
You know, Kenny Fast is Fast Agent. I thought, well, I'm going to be bold agent. So
you need to get one for Oracle agent, I guess. I mean, that's
Oracle agent. Maybe.
And we also have, I almost said what your name is on the contributor chat, the Mouthy Scott. Everyone welcome Dusty. What's up, Dusty Martin?
What's up, Ray?
Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram as well.
You can find me on Instagram at Dusty Martin Realtor. It's super complicated.
Dusty Martin. D-U-S-T-I. Dusty Martin.
Dustin with no N.
Thank Dustin with no N. That's good. And what markets are you guys in?
I'm primarily in Scottsdale, in the greater Phoenix area.
So I'm the West Inland Empire. So Chino Hills, Chino, Ontario, Claremont, that kind of area.
There you go.
Southern California.
And I'm in Arkansas. I don't think I've said that in a while. So just a reminder for those of you out there, that's where we are. Well, today, how it's going to work is that I'm going to kind of tell you guys about a news story, and then Dusty and Mike and I can chime in, have a short discussion about it. We are going to run a little bit long today. We're going to go till about maybe 105, 110, at least, because we want to get the Fed announcement in today. So we will have that breaking news bit. Do I have my breaking news sounder? I need to make sure the breaking news sounder is ready for the breaking news bit. But we'll have that happen right at the end of the show, and we'll talk about the ramifications of that. But first up, we have a little bit of industry tea this week. So the biggest news story coming out of the KW recently has been some of the lawsuits and everything they've had. But if you recall, Josh Team 3 years ago, it's hard to believe that was 3 years ago because we talked about it on the show. But Josh Team 3 years ago took a hiatus and stepped down from being the president of Keller Williams. And when he did, I believe Gary Keller put himself back in that position until recently. Gary Keller stepped down as president and put someone else there. So now Josh Team, after 3 years later, comes back, but not to KW. Josh Team is now, let's see, what is his official role? Oh, wait, hang on. Man,
Is this a plug for real?
no, it's not.
Oh,
This is
okay.
not yet. Anyway.
Just kidding.
No, he is at SERHANT, period. Which I didn't realize the period was part of their branding until I saw it in the middle of a sentence, the SERHANT brand name, and it was said SERHANT period. I thought, wait a minute. What? Oh, that's convenient. That's what happened. So Inman just now put this news story. Last night you could read it. Today you cannot. But Josh Team is now I'm trying to figure out what his actual position is. I don't want to say it's president if I'm sure it's president, but yeah, president. So he's president of SERHANT. And the article was great. It was a glowing article about the growth and everything that he's going to put in place. And I cannot read it to you now because it's on behind the Inman Select, which is just like an extra $2,000 a year, and I'm just not paying it.
Thanks.
So there's news there. Josh Team is back at it. I'm excited I have a lot of friends at SERHANT, and I'm excited for them to have him there because I feel like it's going to get Ryan a chance to focus on his strengths, which is the connection and the marketing and all that stuff, and get someone else there to kind of run operations and growth and expand. And this is a guy that's done it before, obviously, with Keller Williams. So I don't think it's going to change their model, though. SERHANT seems to be only targeting the biggest markets and luxury agents. So I don't think it's going to change their model adding Josh Team, but it may help them expand faster. So I'm thinking SERHANT may be a factor in many more of our markets pretty soon.
You think like the agency and those type of brokerages are their competition who they're looking at?
I think so. The agency, Compass, Real has had an influx of luxury agents lately. So I'm wondering if that's going to take note or take apart or something. I don't know. We'll kind of see how they fight. But
well, they've got Real, and I'm not with Real, but they have that new white label service that's kind of like, I was with Side for a little while, and that you didn't have to have any of their branding. It was all just your own branding. But that might bring on some of those luxury or boutique brokerages that are, big in their markets.
Yeah, the luxury teams that want the support, but at the same time, they don't want to pay the fees and splits of a traditional brokerage.
Yeah, or they want to keep the cachet of their brand that they've created.
Their bougie boutique brand.
Yeah.
Next up, we also have some news on the lawsuit front. So NAR, this was on NAR's website, the magazine.realtor. So NAR supports the centralization of the compensation lawsuits. So basically, we've been using that tracker that Broke Agent Media has, and there are so many lawsuits around the country now. There's 19 currently pending. And so what the NAR has said is, well, why don't we consolidate all these? So they're trying to centralize the case with overlapping issues into one single misconduct litigation.
Wait a minute. Did my prediction of having at least a dozen by December 31st happen?
Oh yeah, that happened by the end of January 31st. We've had that many. So yeah, you were definitely right on that prediction.
So NAR wants to blow it all with just one trial instead of, maybe 50-50 splitting.
That's what it sounds like.
Decision.
They're just saying, let's get it all over with in one go.
I watch a lot of what's that show with the dun dun
Law and Order. Yeah.
And man, anybody on there could have done a better case of defending them. The fact that they didn't interview the agents and the actual clients.
Yep.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll play one here.
I'm going to have to try to find that sounder now too. Oh, I found it. I'm adding it to the board now. I should have had that a long time ago.
Yeah, come on. Especially with all these lawsuits.
I don't know. Let's see. The other thing they say about it is that they're not opposed to moving the whole lawsuit into East Texas, where the largest litigants are. I wonder if there's some Was it Texas that was just getting pelted with the what were they called? The lawsuits that were actually lawsuits that
For new construction?
no, they were people were going after people were just filing all these lawsuits all the time, and they were doing I cannot remember what people called it. They didn't really have the rights, but they were like copyright lawsuits and things like that.
Patent trolls?
Yeah, patent trolls.
Yeah, okay.
Patent trolls. So Texas had a huge number of patent trolls, but I'm wondering if there's litigation favorable in this instance to antitrust or monopoly or something like that that would also be beneficial to them moving it all there. They say it's the district where the original commission cases were filed and remain pending. It's the only district with both buyer and seller cases pending. It's the district with the largest number of cases pending. NAR headquarters and therefore much of its discovery related to these cases is in that district. The district has experience with NAR rules, and Chicago is a central location that can easily be accessible for all parties. The Northern District. I'm sorry. I thought they just said East Texas up here, and then when it gives the definition, it says NAR believes the Northern District of Illinois to be most appropriate. Oh, the secondary place was the District of Texas, Eastern District of Texas. So NAR is giving two options there, Chicago or Texas.
Is that because the laws favor them there?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, NAR headquarters is there, so maybe the political environment favors them a bit. You know, if they're the largest lobbying organization, period. So
they'll know the judges in Chicago, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the judges will know them. Yeah, that would
maybe
be
maybe the National Guard will show up
in Texas.
Sorry.
We'll see if the National Guard will even let the lawsuit into Texas. That's the question.
They have to get through Buc-ee's first.
Stop at a Buc-ee's, yeah, for sure.
I thought it used to be Dickies.
Dickies?
Dickies. Wasn't Dickies like the barbecue place that everyone went to and got the cup, and now it's Buc-ee's pretty quickly switched.
Buc-ee's is for gas. That's how you get
two different things. Except they do have good barbecue at Buc-ee's.
They do have barbecue, yeah.
That was the weirdest part about traveling through Texas, is that you would go to this gas station and there'd be actual legit barbecue there.
And a million flavors of Red Bull and sodas and
yeah.
everything you think of.
Okay, let's see if I got to test it. Fair warning, sometimes when I don't test the sounder, it says what it is and it's not that, but let's see. Oh yeah, that's it.
Got it.
That's it. So now I'll have that for future court cases.
Awesome.
The other industry T-bit. Y'all remember the date the rate?
Marry the house, date the rate.
Yeah. So
I've never used that term.
That's
ever,
probably good.
Yeah. I don't know why anybody ever did that.
That's probably good because there are some people looking into that phrase to see if it meets the guidelines of deceptive advertising. This was on Inman, and it says the state CSBS AARMR. That's the abbreviation of the Conference of State Bank Supervisors and the American Association of Residential Mortgage Regulators. They provided state regulators with language from the modal state law if their state did not already have the coverage prohibited practices, including 5. This is a little number. It says 5. Solicit, advertise, or enter into a contract for specific interest rates, points, or other financing terms unless the terms are actually available at the time of soliciting, advertising, or contracting. And then point 9 is to make in any manner any false or deceptive statement or representation with regard to rates, points, or other financing terms, conditions for residential mortgage loan, or engage in bait and switch advertising. So there's some different states that have different rules. From Washington State, Idaho has 2 of them, prohibited practice of mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders. But it looks like everything that is on this page is kind of after the mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders and not necessarily after the real estate agents that were saying that. But the article from Inman is the CEO of CE Ford Incorporated, which offers services in a variety of areas with compliance, mortgage lending law, and mortgage fraud and ethics. That's the person that wrote the article. But basically, they're saying that it's a gross oversimplification, which I think when everyone was coming out and saying that, there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that because it's deceptive or it's not right." And so I think for the most part, the realtors that I see and follow had it right to be cautious of that language. However, it has come back around lately. And I've been seeing more real estate agents that are kind of out of my personal network. It's kind of expanding, I feel like, that are saying, marry the house, date the rate, even though rates are where they are now, they're going to go down in the future. It's just dangerous advice. So I wanted to bring this up to remind real estate agents, watch what you say. We didn't advise this way. We would say some agents are saying this. Here's our take on it. And our take on it is that you should never buy something now that you can't afford now. So buy what you can afford now. And in the future, if rates go down, you've got a better deal on it. And you purchased a home before the rates went down and the prices go up. Because I don't know about y'all's market, but in our market, we're starting to see less and less supply. There was a little bit of increase in supply through the holidays, and now it's going back down because of the decrease in interest rates, and buyers can't find enough homes. So it looks like we're going to be in a similar position to where we were last year and the year before. And if that's the case, then the prices are going to start to go back up again. So if you purchased last year, you missed that price hike, and you may be at a slightly higher rate. But if rates go down, you can then refi. But don't rely on the rates to go down for the purchase that you're making today.
I agree with that 100%, but everybody wants to try to boil it down to 6 words. And it's a really nuanced answer that you can't do with, just a quippy term. So I tell them the exact same thing, but you never know what's going to change. Like they might not be able to qualify a year from now or however long it is. So I always tell them, only if you can afford it. But if rates do go down, yes, there's a high likelihood that prices are going to go up. So.
Yeah. Dusty, what's your take on this thing?
I think if you're trying to come at an agent who may have said that for ethics and deceptive advertising, I'm not sure that the agents were intentionally deceptive, and you might have to prove a motive to deceive somebody. So I'm not sure about that, but I think they would definitely possibly be held accountable to an ethical standard because they didn't really understand how that works. And they didn't really understand what they were saying. I never said that. And it's because I don't know about anybody else, but I did not get a crystal ball when I got my real estate license. It would have been cool if I did, but I did not. And so for me, I have always said, yeah, rates might go down, but they might also go up. And when people started saying that, rates were still going up. And they did for 6 months or so before they even hinted at coming down. And I think... And another thing that bothered me that kind of ties into this was people were celebrating that adjustable rate mortgages had come back when rates were still fairly low. And they're like, but if it goes down, it'll go down. But people only sell that product when they know rates are going to go up.
Yeah.
So when you think of that, like for me, it was a stupid comment. And I didn't want to badmouth other agents who said that. But I also I wasn't going to repeat it because I think we all have learned that like what goes up must come down. And sometimes it hits the floor like Play-Doh.
Christina M. Smallhorn, she just will say it's stupid. She said such a stupid statement. She said, I've made a video on how dumb it was to try to sway a buyer.
Also, first time listener here, my buddy Tim, he's my favorite veteran house hacker.
Oh, you know Tim?
Yeah,
says, he's entered the match.
Messaging and I said, yeah, jump on. He's like his own little real estate mogul. He's not an agent, but he should be.
Oh, there you go.
I feel like Barbara Corcoran, there's like a Instagram audio track that people are using with her saying that term.
I used that. I got like 3 million views on that.
Oh,
so well, we covered it on the show. And it was the fact that she was saying, buy now, because if you wait and if rates go up, then the home price is going to increase drastically, which was our same advice. she doesn't say, well, she might say marry the rate or marry the house, date the rate, but she never says buy something you can't afford now. And the perception when we put it out there was really funny how many people argued, and there was so many trolls in the comments. It was a lot of fun for me. And people are like, oh, it's stupid advice. You shouldn't buy now. And so I would say, well, should you wait until rates are higher?
This is like a live Mandela effect, because I could have swore she said that, but no, I'm just kidding.
She may have. But I know that her larger point in the clip we used was if you wait, rates are going to come down. Yes. But home prices then are going to skyrocket.
Yep. That's basically what you said. Yeah. Rates, if they come down, and chances are they will at some point, prices will go up. And I'm already seeing it in my neighborhood. So
likewise.
Well, and what we saw in November, it's a perfect segue to the next story. What we saw in November was actually a cooling of home prices. So in November, when rates were pretty high, CNBC reports that home prices began to cool after 9 straight months of gains. It says, let me share this. I'm going to share the screen. You got to click out of all the ads that they put up. I guess these news websites are really hurting because there's so many ads now. Okay, there you go. All right, so home prices fell in November 0.2% from October, according to the S&P Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. While that may not seem like a lot, the first monthly drop since January 2023. Mortgage rates rose sharply in October to their highest level in more than 20 years, making houses hard to afford. And also taking out a lot of buyers from those price ranges. And so normally that's natural. Whenever you have a decrease in buyer demand, oops, I canceled myself there. Whenever you have a decrease in buyer demand, you should also have a decrease in the average home prices. But I don't think you could say that homes lost value. I think there were probably fewer homes selling at the top end, which lowers your median and your average. So the home price decline came where mortgage rates peaked, with the Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rate mortgage earning 8%, according to the Federal Reserve data. The rate has since fallen over 1%, which could support further annual gains in home prices. And we'll kind of see what happens today. If the Fed cuts rates today, there's going to be a lot of people excited and will probably jump into the market. And when they jump into the market, they're going to figure out, well, the rate really didn't adjust for me yet. I think that's what's going to happen. It'll be huge news. Fed cut rate for the first time since blah. And people are going to get really excited to go get approved for their lender and then figure out that, wait, we're still in the 6%, high 6%. What's happened?
The 10-year is down like 2.3% right now. It's 3.934.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which, like, I don't know. I think the expectation is that there's going to be no change in rates. I think I heard yesterday, like, over 50% of whoever makes this determination, they are not expecting rate cuts today. So interesting to see what happens.
There's, I think, 3 of them were leaning towards nothing. Let's see if there's anything. That's kind of hitting that article. So if rates do nothing, if it's higher for longer, I think you'd probably still see a slight rate adjustment down unless the economy goes up again, which is kind of weird to say, but an economy that is struggling a little bit is the best thing for rates. Okay, we have a report from Redfin. Home buyers on a $3,000 monthly budget have gained nearly $40,000 in purchase price power since mortgage rates peaked last fall. So since the time that we just talked about where home prices moderated a bit, buyers have gotten a $40,000 boost in purchasing power because of the rate drop.
Can I back up a second here real quick, Ray?
Yeah.
So this is what happens when you have me on the show. I'm not just in the
No, it's
crowd
good.
on,
I love it.
on Clubhouse. So I'm looking at an article, New York Post, and I could have swore I saw this in the Wall Street Journal, but the headline here is home prices hit record high in November amid sagging inventory. And they point that prices increased 5.1% compared to the previous year. So I think it's the same story. They're both citing the Case-Shiller index for November, but it's just different ways of presenting the data. So
Yeah. One's looking at the
month to
month to
month.
month trend while the other's looking at the annual.
The annual. Which is
Yeah.
super confusing for, the retail buyer or, the shopper or the homeowner that isn't dissecting the data. They just hear one thing and, maybe not digging deeper. So,
I
This is
find it
why
really hard to avoid month to month data in my business, because most people are not going to realize what's a historical norm for our area. And certain months are going to be dead and certain months are going to be hot. Certain months are always going to be the yearly low. It's just like stock. They all have their
cyclicality.
normal yearly performance, So it's not apples to apples.
Yeah, I like the monthly data to kind of tell us where the pulse is currently.
Right.
But the problem is the monthly data comes out 2 months later.
Right.
So, and so does the annual, but still you're still 2 months late. So we can infer that from the rates at that time, this is how consumers were acting. And now, given where the rates are today, we can infer probably that they're acting different. But we won't know for 2 months for sure. Let's see, I'm looking. Go ahead, Jack.
Could I also, I mean, with the skewed extremes in supply and demand, the data is just not representative of the market. And we've talked a lot about this throughout COVID, with the extremes in inventory and demand. And I couldn't agree anymore. It really plays in the minds of the retail community. Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with and whenever you're looking at year over year, you're really looking at almost like a valuation where you could say, yeah, the value has stuck. There's still some value to these properties. It's not going down in value. But when you look at the month to month, you can start to see the trend in where people are purchasing. Are they buying in the lower end more? Are they buying in the higher end more? So I think it's good for that. But whenever we look at the numbers here locally, we look at both. So I run the numbers and look at month to month numbers. I also look at the annual, but it's also helpful now to have like pre-COVID numbers, because when you look at the annual versus 2023, there's still some impact there. So we like to go back all the way to 2019 to see what the trends were, not necessarily what the numbers were. It's weird times.
Totally agree. And I did that in my year-end recap. I went back to 2018, 2019 to prove sort of what a more traditional market was.
Yeah. When everyone was freaking out because 49% of the homes that were currently listed has price decreases, I looked back in 2019 and realized that 47% of homes that were listed had price decreases. So, and that was pre-COVID. So it's like, well, that's kind of the same.
Double and triple digit days on the market. And sad part is a lot of the agents out there don't know what that is.
That's true. And that was still a seller's market. We're like, wow, we're still getting multiple offers. It's quite the seller's market today.
Indeed.
Thank you. In the YouTube comments, Olivier says, no rate cut today. It would be too soon. And then, see, Christina said that Barbara Corcoran did say that on the Today Show. So there you go, Mike.
I don't know. It's an election year. They're going to do stupid things.
They could. Let me share this chart. All right, so homebuyers save homebuyers on a $3,000 a month budget have gained nearly 40,000. This is what that chart looks like. So you can see at where the rates are at the various percentages, what the percent says, how much home can you afford as the mortgage rates change. So it shows the home price you can afford for different monthly payment amounts. So if we pick we're right around the 6.5. So if you're on a $3,500, what'd they say, a $3,000? Let's go 3,000. There it is. We're about right here. So 460,000 or so. And if you just go up to 6.7%, it's 453,000. If you hit the 7% number, you're at 442,000. So you can see how fast the affordability changes with just a slight change in rates. The article goes on to say bidding wars are picking up as mortgage rates decline and inventory stays low. I've seen a few homes get 15 plus offers recently, and one got more than 30. Last year, many listings sat on the market as buyers on the sidelines, hoping for rates to drop. Now buyers are snapping up homes because rates haven't plummeted, and people are realizing that the longer they wait to buy a home, the more competition they're likely to face. And I would say the longer they wait to buy a home, the more that they're going to miss out on appreciation that happens over time.
Yep.
Are y'all seeing multiple offers in your markets right now?
100%.
Yes.
Under 3 million.
Under 3 million are getting multiple offers. Is 3 million in the top like 1% of your market, or is that in the ultra 0.5%?
Depends on which city suburb around town. In Paradise Valley, $1 million is like an entry-level gut job from 1972. But more and more often, it's hard to get a decent home in there under 3 million. So in that area, like you might have a buyer's market. In my area, 3 million's pretty high up there, but they're not uncommon. Like my neighborhood, for example, is like 1.2, 1.3, but I am seeing people overpriced. So even though my zip code is selling at 35 days on market, my neighborhood is at 89. It's because there's a lot of agents who haven't adjusted for the market. So it's kind of a moving target, but overall, like in Arizona, over 3 million is usually considered ultra luxury, but like in Paradise Valley, not so much.
Are you seeing the market catch up to some of those that might be, on the market at too high of a price to start with?
No. Because even if it's off, it's weird. If you're off even 1% in my market, and I've seen it as low, even in the hottest of markets, if I've seen it over 0.5% or 1% too high, buyers see that and they know the market's hot, and they see that, it's supposedly still a seller's market. And then they're like, well, it's already overpriced and I'm not going to outbid somebody. So then it'll sit until the agent or the seller or both get realistic about what it will take. But I find if a home, regardless of the price, is priced and marketed appropriately, it will sell very fast, like inside a month, 90 days max, if all of those things line up. But if you're not doing that, it's just going to sit, and it's going to sit for a long time.
Yeah, homes that are cute. They have what I call the cuteness factor, where they go online and people are like, oh, this is a pretty house. Or those are selling really, really quickly. Homes that are not, that are cluttered a little bit, that are off on price, they're sitting. So it's a very sensitive market. Even though buyers are short, it's still very sensitive.
Yeah.
The Redfin chief economist, Daryl Fairweather, she says it best. She says, my advice to serious house hunters: trying to time the market around mortgage rates is probably a waste of energy, as affordability is unlikely to change meaningfully in the next several months. Instead, buyers should consider their own personal and financial circumstances. What matters most is whether the home meets your needs long-term and whether you can afford it. Timing the market mattered in 2021 when we were in the golden window of record low rates, but now that window has closed.
I agree.
And I would say even back then in 2021, if you tried to time the market, you're going to miss out on some houses. So there was actually these little funny ebb and flows as the rates might adjust up a little bit. Like we could get a great deal for our buyer, like in that one window. And we had several investors that were purchasing in these windows at that time, where rates would go up and it was all the way up to 4%. And our investors were like, bye. Because the buyers had backed up. And then as rates went down a little bit, you'd have more buyers enter. There was less for our investors to choose from. So we actually had several really excited and then really frustrated investors that would pick up a couple of properties at really wonderful deals and prices. And I was telling them, like, that's not normal. That's not going to last. And they're like, oh yeah. We want to go acquire 30 this year, just like this one. And after we got the first 3 or 4 or 5, they're not able to find that number again. Like, yeah, that's because the more buyers that are in the market, they're now your competition.
Yeah.
So it was weird in 2021. Now it feels more normal. But I don't know how long it's going to be until the buyers understand that normal and start to purchase like they used to.
I don't know. I tried to harp on how unnormal it was to have rates that low. And I was telling people, this is the rate that you will brag about to your children's children about. You can't go wrong if you're going to buy something at that point years ago. And now the hard part now is getting sellers or even buyers to realize that you're not, like, we're at a historical norm. You're not going to get that deal. And nor are you going to sell your house with 25 offers, in 2 days. Like, that's not normal. It might take you a month. Woo.
Yeah. I can remember broadcasting this show and hearing about people in multiple offers, like, getting 15, 20 offers. And at the time we were getting like 1, maybe 2 on a really good property, but it had to be a really great property to get that second offer.
Was this like early in COVID?
No, this was when we first started the show.
Oh,
so 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Markets around the country, people were calling in saying, this is an amazing market for sellers. They're getting multiple offers. And then it kind of went to a little bit of a buyer's market and then came right back to a seller's market.
I have a listing coming up. It's a VA seller, and he's willing to have somebody take over, assume his loan, even if they don't have the VA entitlement. So, we're thinking about a premium, what to charge for, because he would forego his ability to have another VA loan while that loan is in existence, and it's at 2.94. It's like a $650,000 note. So,
wow,
a lot of value right there. I'm interested to see. I'm going to market it, for veterans that the price is the price for veterans that assume it, but somebody that doesn't have that entitlement, he is willing to look at offers. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's a cool idea. A lot of times what we've seen in those loan assumptions, because I had to get some information from someone else that did it, because I had a client that was interested in taking over, and they had about 50% equity. So the 50%, they would assume the loan, 50%, they would just give the person cash. And we found out whenever we contacted the bank that the 50% that we would have to get the loan for, they hiked the rate like crazy for the assumption.
Really?
Yeah. Well, they didn't hike the rate. They hiked for the new, what was it? It was a part that wasn't assumed. Oh, that's what it was. They weren't going to pay cash. They couldn't pay cash for the other half. So they were going to take half on the assumption and then get the other half as a loan with the big down payment. And they found out that the other half that they were going to get the loan, that was the hiked rate. So they could get the great rate on the first half, but on the second portion, it was like a crazy rate, and they couldn't use just another bank to get it. They had to use the same bank to get it. So they would have been better advised to go hard money in that situation.
Matt's chiming in. He's got an assumption closing next week.
Oh, nice. At 3.25. I think that's great. I think if you could pay the equity amount in cash or a private money, I think that's the way to do it. If you have to get another loan for the remaining balance, some of those banks will force you to get the same loan for the one you're assuming, and that rate is not going to be as friendly.
I wonder what mechanism they force you to use them.
It's probably something in the loan docs, right?
Yeah, I guess. I have to look into that.
Because even if you sell a home, what's it called? Seller financed, but there's a loan on the property, some lenders will call the loan or have the ability to call the loan based on the loan docs if they find out that you sold the property. So now you have to pay them. Yeah. The due on sale clause. The due on Santa Claus. So the other thing that's affecting price is winter weather. Are y'all getting much winter weather where you are? Is it kind of nice?
It's beautiful today. It'll be yucky tomorrow.
It's nice. Rain is our winter weather. So
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Arkansas's wet season is in winter. And so if it gets cold, we get some pretty fun snows. So we're just coming out of a week freeze and then a week of just solid pouring down rain, which has been terrible. So it's really nice and pretty yesterday and today. But price growth starts the year strong, but harsh weather freezes out some would-be home buyers. And I always forget that the beginning of January, sometimes beginning of February, it feels like there's some snows around the country that tend to just kind of lock up people where they have to move closings, or even people that were interested in going see houses or putting in offers can't do that. And so the numbers may be askew in the winter in some areas. Midwest, namely, it's like negative 30 degrees. The median U.S. home price rose 5.1% during the 4 weeks ending in January 21st. That's the biggest increase since October of 2022. Asking prices rose 6.5%, also the biggest increase in more than a year. The total number of homes for sale is down 4% year over year, while new listings are up 2%. So it's the smallest annual increase in about 3 months. This week's data shows sluggish activity with severe weather, but sellers and buyers stayed on the sideline in much of the country. Pending home sales were down 8% year over year. So I'm hearing all that, but at the same time, I'm looking at our market, knowing that we're having one of the best Januaries we've ever had. And last year, we doubled our business from the previous year. So I'm hearing everyone say it's slow, but I'm definitely not seeing that in my market, even though we just had 2 weeks of terrible weather. What's the start like for y'all so far this year?
Locally, like hyper local, we've had more activity. I mean, I don't know the numbers. I haven't calculated. Tomorrow I'll see what December's numbers or January's numbers turn out to be. But definitely seems like more buyers kind of getting out there. I had an open house a couple weeks ago during the rain, which for us in Southern California is like it might as well be a hurricane. Had a lot of people, many more than I thought. And so that was interesting. And even the showing requests after that have been pretty high.
Okay. So you're seeing an uptick in activity. What about you,
Yeah.
Dusty? What's your market?
Yeah.
I am slammed, and I've been trying to prepare my clients for like 3-4 months for this, because January 1st is like it's like a gun goes off and everybody's off to the races every year. And our most beautiful weather is usually like in the winter. So we have all these seasonal residents or snowbirds, whatever you want to call them. They come from all the cold places and they come to Arizona. We've got Barrett Jackson that just ended. We've got the TPC, the biggest circus on the green, whatever you want to call it these days. And a lot of times we'll have the Super Bowl right around the same time, bowl games, usually on New Year's Day. And so this is our busy season. And so sure enough, like January 1st came around, and to be honest, I think I've maybe had only 1 or 2 days off since New Year's.
Wow. So that's good for you.
It is good. And so I think too many agents in my market, if you're listening, take off the holidays, because things do go quiet between Thanksgiving and New Year's. But if you're not around when they're getting ready to get their house on the market, you're going to be left out. And so now I'm flying by the seat of my pants trying to keep up, because I know come summer we'll be dead because it's too hot.
Yeah, Kilgore Doubt says lots of rain in California next week. Matt Lamarche says WM next week, right?
Yeah, waste management.
Waste management. It's the funnest. I mean, that's the funnest tournament ever.
It's literally a dumpster fire.
I need to go. Matt, let's go.
Maybe. It's sweet for me, actually. It's like 5 minutes for me. It's crazy.
Olivier, are you still here? How close are you to Alberta? Banff. I'm gonna be there in May. That's fun. Anyway, okay, so we do have. Let me make sure I'm getting this next story correct. All right, weekly mortgage demand drops. Is this the same article as this other one? No, this is different. Okay. So weekly mortgage demand has dropped. Applications to refi a home increased 2% for the week and were 3% higher from a week ago. However, applications to purchase fell 11% last week from the previous week and were 20% lower than the same week a year ago. And this may be what is leading to the conclusion of bad weather. But Joel Kahn, he's the Mortgage Bankers Association economist. He said that low existing housing supply is limiting options for prospective buyers and keeping home price growth elevated, resulting in a 1-2 punch that continues to constrain home purchase activity. So basically affordability and people not able to find what they're looking for. If the Fed is going to have an impact on mortgage rates Wednesday, it would only be due to the market's interpretation of comments pertaining to the future, noted Matthew Graham, Chief Operating Officer of Mortgage News Daily. They're not expected to announce any change, and that's why he's saying that people reading the tea leaves in the comments, that may have a larger impact on rates than the no change.
So since the end of December, like the 10-year yield has been inching up from 3.8 to like 4.1, 1.5. So, that's translating, I'm sure, into slightly higher mortgage interest rates. But the spread has gotten better. If you look at the difference between the average 30-year and the 10-year, the spread is tightening up a tiny bit. So hopefully that'll continue to contract.
Well, so what's that mean for the economy as a whole?
I'm not exactly sure what factors go in. I think it's the bank's desire to lend, I guess, is what would, tighten that spread up. I'm under the belief that we are going to avoid a soft landing. I don't think it's going to be there's going to be some event that's going to spur the Fed to drop rates. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be something not so good for the general economy. Like UPS is a good indicator. They're laying off 12,000 people. And if you look at their volumes, their projections for the year are pretty low. So, I don't know. It's difficult. All the information that you get where everything's rosy, you got to dig deeper. Like the GDP numbers, a lot of that was government spending, healthcare, things that aren't necessarily growing the economy.
So do you think we've landed yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we're still up in the air.
You're leading directly into the next article. This is an interesting article from CNBC. It says, forget a soft landing. There may be no landing. Isn't that interesting? Here's what that would mean. So their interpretation is that a combination of higher rates and inflation have hit consumers hard, and that a no landing scenario means more strain on household budgets and those with variable rate debt, such as credit cards, arms.
That's code for kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
So
one guy said it looks like a soft landing has been more or less achieved and is likely to be sustained. For consumers, it would mean relief from high borrowing costs, particularly mortgages, credit cards, and auto loans. Maybe finally on the way. The alternative, they think, could be a hard landing, which is what you're saying. He said some experts still haven't ruled out a recession altogether. Mark Higgins, the senior vice president for Index Fund Advisors and author of Investing in U.S. Financial History, Understanding the Past to Forecast the Future. He says the real danger here is that the Fed loosens prematurely, which is exactly what they did in the 1960s. The risk of allowing inflation to persist still far outweighs the risk of triggering a recession. The failure to do this in the 1960s with major factors that allowed inflation to become entrenched in the 1970s.
I feel like they might have already done that, and now they're trying to correct for their overcorrection.
Yeah. So if you look at like everything that's going on in the world, we've got troops that were killed in Jordan and Iran, and all it takes is the bombs to drop in the right direction or the wrong direction, I guess, and the price of oil is going to shoot up. And you've got shipping, that's going up in price. I do think we're going to have inflation is going to come back to a certain degree, and but that doesn't necessarily mean that housing prices are going to get hurt. Or our transaction volume might go back down again. But in terms of pricing, at least locally, just the shortage of supply, and the people that can afford it will continue to buy. And you might have people, if let's say unemployment goes up, you're going to have fewer people out there looking. But if supply is so low, it's going to be offset by the demand that is out there.
And we still have like 63% home ownership rate right now, which after the Depression was only at 43%. So we still have way more people owning homes than used to as a percentage. So it's still, that's the key to building wealth a lot of times is property ownership. So it's not like only the rich would have houses. However, I think a lot of young people want to wait as long as possible to buy because they're not in one place anymore. They're still moving. They still, why would they buy a house if they were going to move in a year? So I just think there's a change in lifestyle that is pushing everything a little bit later. And maybe 5 years ago, that started to kind of catch up, where a lot of those people were turning of age to purchase, including me. I waited a long time because I didn't know where I was going to be to buy my first home. So I think that's kind of normal. But saying all that to say, in the history of home prices, there's only been 2 recessions that home prices have declined. In one of those, it declined negative 1.9%. In the other one, it declined negative 19%. I'll let you guess when that was. But in no other time in history did a recession lead to a drop in home prices, like you said. At every other time, home prices increased 3 to 6%.
Was that 91 and obviously 08, but was that 91 on the other one?
I can't remember when the
91 or 93.
Yeah. I can't remember when that first, it was a negative 1.9% drop, which is, I mean, in a recession feels flat.
That's a sneeze.
Yeah. But the other negative 19 was 08. But we still have a lot of that generation that saw that and who grew up seeing their parents grow through that. They're thinking, wow, homes are so expensive right now. Let's just wait until it comes down. So I'm wondering if that would lead to a lower percentage of home ownership, as people are just have this wrong view of home prices and the history of home prices. Even if we have a recession, even if we have a really hard landing, there is still not enough inventory to satisfy the demand of home buyers. Therefore, prices will stay the same, if not go up.
Well, and just think of the general like devaluing of the dollar. That's pretty consistent. You know, the shelter, you're always going to need it. Dollars aren't going to get any stronger. I mean, you know, on the short term they might, but it's going to take more dollars to buy everything eventually.
Yeah.
And that includes real estate.
It's really the lack of affordable homes.
We didn't do enough here, so we're just out of homes in general. So,
well, this is an interesting article too. So this is from Fox Business. Oh wait, hang on. I can't get past the ad block because my ad block is blocking them. And sorry for everyone on Clubhouse that's hearing it right now. Hang on. Trying to get there. All right. I still can't get past the ad block. Hang on. Let me refresh. Everyone on Clubhouse can hear the audio coming through, so I apologize.
Are they selling Trumpy Bear?
You need an AI English accent, Ray.
I know. I like that guy, actually. Stuart Varney. He's pretty fun.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so I'm there. My ad blocker is, you have to turn off your ad blocker in order to turn off the pop-up so that you could stop the autoplay on the video. It's annoying. But basically in Beverly Hills, they have put a halt on all future construction because there was supposed to be this deal where, okay, if you want to build more of these really beautiful, expensive homes, you have to build a certain number of affordable housing units. And that number was 3,000 new affordable housing units.
In Beverly Hills.
Yeah. So Beverly Hills was required to submit a plan to Sacramento for over 3,000 new affordable housing units. And, but the problem is, so this has not been approved. The state of California has rejected 4 previous proposals. So Beverly Hills has managed to add 20 units so far. We've intentionally created a desirable environment by deliberately avoiding overdevelopment and over densification. So they, in order for them to develop more, they have to have this plan to have 3,000 affordable housing units. But so far, 4 proposals for the 3,000 units have been denied. So now they're on another proposal, a 5th proposal, but they now are blocked from developing anything else further until this gets approved and goes through.
Every city in the state has to supply plans for affordable housing. And like in my local city here in Chino Hills, there isn't a whole lot of developable land that isn't in someone's backyard. So finding the open space that you can put multifamily in. It's really tough. And every time I go to like the city meetings, that's always a topic of like, where are we going to shove everybody into?
It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, like here, a lot of it's already zoned commercial. So the only way for that to happen is to completely rezone either a rural residential like I'm on, or change the zoning to where the lot size can be smaller, or change something that's commercial to be multi-use where it can be both commercial and residential. So we're getting a lot of like the
Overlay.
condos on top with the shops and the entertainment down below. And that's not really how Arizonans live, because it's freaking hot, like in the Northeast, it's really cold, and you go from your heated car to your heated, house, and you don't go out in the elements for a certain part of the year. Where here, it's the opposite. We go from an air-conditioned house to an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned job. We're not getting out and strolling along the street to go do our grocery shopping. Like,
it's not.
No.
There's not very many
In
walkable
120 degrees,
right? We would die. So
your ice cream would never make it home.
That's right. They don't even have
so-
ice cream in California. That's how hot it is. Or in
so-
Arizona. That's how hot
Yeah.
it is.
Part of me is like, I see these go up, and to be honest, they look like Soviet housing. They're not pretty. And I'm just, these are not going to age well. If anybody's been like to the Eastern Bloc and like see how those types of places age, it's not pretty.
Follow
It's
some
just
of
a
those
square concrete box.
brutalism pages on Instagram with
Yeah.
the Russian techno music.
Ugh.
Oh,
But
Oh.
yeah. Do we have a thing?
breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. The Fed holds rates steady and indicates it's not ready to start cutting.
Oh, Olivier called it.
Yeah, I think most people are kind of leaning that direction once they heard some of the statements from those that were decision makers. But I do think it's interesting that their comments further indicate they're not ready to start cutting. I think several Democrats in office had gone out after the Fed to try to get them to lower rates so that there would be a boon for housing. One can only wonder, it being a political year, I'm sure they wanted things to be really nice this summer. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So rates are going to stay higher for longer. We'll keep an eye on the market to see how this impacts mortgage interest rates. But yeah, interesting. I think that's probably smart, actually. I'm really nervous about them lowering rates too soon, and then just everything goes haywire again, and we're right back in this position with crazy inflation, and bread and milk and everything you want is more expensive. So I think this is okay. Olivier said he's Canadian smart. The Black Belt Broker says, I like the brutalism. Tim Wing, man, he's into it too. That's hilarious. They
Just some
appreciate
background on Tim. He's a veteran, and
brutalist arc.
he's a total
Love
adrenaline
it.
junkie. So you can totally see that persona.
I believe Tim also thinks he could probably build more than 20 units in that time period. So, all right. Well, speaking of, one of the things you mentioned, Dusty, is the rezoning of commercial to residential, and that also seems to be probable in a lot of states. This article is from Rent Cafe, and one of you posted this in the contributor chat.
It was me.
Yeah, it's real interesting article. Office to apartment conversions pipeline more than quadrupled in 4 years. So the number of office conversions is up to 53,300. That's to convert old office space into residential, which we were talking about 2 years ago, I believe. Jack Atteridge also brought it to our attention on the East Coast. Some of this was starting to happen. And one of the big questions that we had at the time were how many were how many of these, I know I got myself again, were how many of these units would actually be ready for the residential conversion versus how many of them are sitting in situations where the construction is too old, the pipes aren't ready. Because, you know, when you go from a situation where you have an office building with 1 or 2 bathrooms on the floor that are flushed on occasion versus people taking showers and using the restroom all the time and cooking and cleaning, you know, that's a different scenario of pipes that not only for that building have to be changed, but also for the infrastructure in the city has to be considered. And there was a lot of question of, you know, just that as one example, how many of these buildings are actually ready to be converted? And honestly, there's more than I think. Office conversions now represent 38% of the $147,000 apartments in future adaptive reuse projects. So that's a lot higher than I thought. The share of future conversions by building category, they say office buildings at 38, others 20%, healthcare buildings at 6%, factories at 13%, hotel at 24%. I wonder what percentage of that other is like retail, malls. There's probably not that many. I mean, there's only a couple of malls per city, maybe. So that's not going to be.
We have 2 malls in Arizona that they're doing exactly that. They're rezoning it from commercial and doing the multi-use, like I said, and the designs are out. The old Metro Center Mall that they tore down a year ago, I want to say, that was like a landmark. And they demolished it. It's gone, and it's going to be multi-use. And then the mall that I grew up going to, which was the Paradise Valley Mall, that has also been torn down with the exception of not Sears, JCPenney. They owned their portion of the building. And so everything else got demolished and is now going to be multi-use. So the only things that stayed were like Costco and JCPenney. And I don't even know anybody who shops there, so I don't know what they're doing with it. But that's also going to be multi-use open air shops and condos and stuff like that. So I can see that, but at the same time, when we had our big recession in 2009, 2010, when things were crashing, we had a lot of vacant office buildings, which we needed to figure something out. And a lot of those businesses never came back. Yet all over my part of the area, all along the 101 in Scottsdale, we have brand new office buildings going up, but they do have some like dining and entertainment or hotels nearby. So I'm seeing a lot of hotels go in, a lot of commercial buildings, but then the malls around town are mostly being repurposed and rezoned and reimagined.
Olivier says adding residential to shopping center parking is a thing here. We've seen that once where we have an older mall and now it has an apartment complex kind of at the edge of the parking lot of that. It used to be just a flat parking lot, but they put an apartment complex there. That is interesting. Here's how the breakdown is from city by city. So the highest number of office to apartment conversions in the pipeline is Washington, D.C., with 5,820 in the works. New York is number 2 with 5,215. Dallas is number 3, 3,163. Chicago's number 4, 2,822. Los Angeles is 5, 2,442. And then it goes down from there. So I'm most of it looks like California, Ohio, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri is on the list. Atlanta, Georgia, Hot Atlanta, Phoenix, Arizona.
Shout out to Matt out in Hot Atlanta.
Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama is here. Seattle, Washington, Hartford, Connecticut, Denver, Colorado, and Charlotte, North Carolina.
You know what's something funny is Wisconsin. In Seattle, all these businesses and tech companies are leaving the Seattle area and their owners are buying homes in Paradise Valley.
Oh, really?
That and I don't know what it is about Paradise Valley other than it's just a beautiful area with beautiful people, but it's kind of funny to see them all flock to the neighborhood essentially, because it's really just one zip code right around the mountain. So
tax advantages, I guess.
We do have a really strong business-friendly environment in Arizona, but why they're buying their homes in Paradise Valley, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is there income tax in Arizona?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Is there income tax in Arizona?
It is, but it's very low.
Yeah, they're probably wanting to keep more of their money somehow. I got a feeling this is a fiscal move. This is a fiscal change.
100%.
Tim says, let's see, I think office space residential conversion is an outstanding possible solution, especially for places like the Bay Area. Good way to provide luxury apartment options for tech bros.
He's actually doing that. He bought a building where he's at. I think he's in Cleveland, Detroit, somewhere up in the Rust Belt.
He said, as well as the opportunity to provide some no shit low income housing options.
Yeah. So he's been converting this huge building he bought. It's interesting, to say the least.
Henry said, I'm 60 in Alberta, Canada. What's up? And we're going down. It's slow, but can see it picking up very quickly. Oilfield business, but everything is crazy teetering on a knife. Interesting. And I don't know why this says paired on my end.
I don't know. On mine too, and I don't know why.
I don't know what that is. Does that mean, did you pay for that? Was this a boosted comment, Henry? I'm trying to figure out what it says on my side of it, but it's highlighted purple when you commented, Henry. That's interesting. Huh. Well, maybe I'll have to go back and figure out what that means. Paired. All right. Well, that's all I've got for the show today, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for the opportunity. This was fun.
Yeah. I want to do this like once a month to have listeners, people that are involved in the show, that are commenting, that are hanging out with us, people in the contributor chat, just offer a chance to have a spotlight on you guys. Thank you for the support, and also just have a longer discussion. So tell everybody again where they can find you, Mike. What's your Instagram handle?
Bold Agent or buildingbldgrealty.com.
There you go. Dusty, what about you?
You can find me at dustymartinrealtor.com.
DustyMartinRealtor.com.
Pretty much everywhere.
Right. You guys can find me at Razorback, RAYZORBACK, mainly on Instagram. Just find me there. Shoot me a message. Let me know you listen to the show. And please do all the subscribey things. Subscribe, hit the bell. If you've made it this long, you might also want to check out the podcast version of the show. It comes out about 2 hours after this version. So if you're like, I just wish I could have the audio, I'm tired of seeing this beautiful beard, that's the way to do it. So thank you guys for joining us, and I will see y'all next week. Bye, everybody.